Hello all, this session is about conditional execution in Python. So what is conditional execution, right? So basically you want some part of the code to get executed only when certain condition is met, and some part of the code to get repeatedly executed, right, for n number of times, or for all the items present in your list, right, or till a certain condition is met. So this is called conditional execution, right? So let's see some examples of how to write conditional execution in Python. So let me create a new Python file, conditional execution. Okay, so I'm going to take an input string, right? So my input string is input, enter the sentence. So I'm going to get the sentence from user, and then what I want is I want to split the words by blank space, and I want to find the longest word. Okay, so how do I do that? So first let me get the words from that input string. My input string dot split by blank space, or I can just give split, anything is fine. This will give me the words present in the sentence which I will be entering. Now I know the words, but which is the longest word and what is the length of it, right? How do I get it? So what I want is the longest word, which will be a string, and I want the maximum length, max length, right, which for now is 0. So let's say I'm going to get a longest word, and that length will be some number which I'm going to get. So for now I'm having an empty string as a longest word, and the length is 0. But now I have to loop through, or I have to go through each word present in the words, find the length of each word, and check whether that is the maximum length in that particular sentence. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write something called a for loop. For loop can repeat a certain operation for a for a list of items, or for a defined number, set of numbers. So for example, right, so if I want to repeat some operation, let's say I in range of 1 comma 10, print I. When I do this, this will basically loop through the range of numbers and then print them. Okay, so if I simply comment these guys out and run this code, if you see, it has printed from the numbers, right? And as you remember, when we give the range in slicing, this is the maximum limit provided here is excluded. So if I want to get 10 numbers, I need to provide 11 here. Okay, right? So this is like repeating the print statement 10 times because I have given a range. Okay, now within this range of numbers, if I want to do something else like sum of these numbers, okay, how do I do that? Very simple, like total equal to 0. I'll say total equal to total plus the I value, and I will print total. So it will basically sum up from 1 to 10, which is 55, right? It has basically summed up 1 plus 2 plus 3, the cumulative total it's printing, right? Because this has got executed 10 times. So if I keep a breakpoint here and if I run it, let me unmute the breakpoint and let me run it again. Yeah, you see it has stopped here and I value is 1. If I press F8, now it goes back to the for again, and it comes back inside. Now I is 2, now I is 3. So this is called looping. It loops within the same statements till we reach the 10, and then it will come out. Okay, so this is a for loop for a defined range of numbers. But if I want to do the same thing for a set of words which I'm going to get from the user, right, there I will be doing it in a slightly different way. I will use for word in words. So when it is looping through this list of words, it will get one word at a time. And if I want to print that word directly, I can do that. Okay, so now let me debug this, and it asks for enter the sentence. So let's enter some sentence. Python is simple to learn but very powerful. Okay, all right. So now when I have entered that string, Python is simple to learn but very powerful, it has got the words Python is simple. If you see, each of them has been broken down into separate words. Words is a list of 8 words. Okay, now when I loop through this, if you look at here, this for loop, first word it has got is Python, right? This word is Python, which is the first word. If I go to the next word, is simple. You see this word is changing, right? So for every loop it gets the next word. So when you loop through the list, you will get the items from the list, and you can do something with it, like you can print it, or you can find the length of it, or you can store it in a database, or you can write it to a file. Whatever you want to do, you can do with that item. Okay, so let me mute the breakpoints and run this. Yeah, so that's what it has done. So now if I want to find the length of this word, because I need to check which is the longest word, right? So to find the longest word in the sense the number of characters present in the word, I need to find the length of that word. So first let me get the length of that word. So I will say word length equal to len of. Len is a function given by Python to find the length of a particular word or particular array, right? Meaning list. So I have got the word length. So now I need to check if the word length is higher than the max length which we already have. How to do that? I need to check some condition, right? If this is greater than this value, if word length is greater than maximum length. So for that, what I'm going to do is like write a if condition. If will check a particular condition is satisfied or not. The syntax goes something like this. If you give certain condition and a colon, and here you will write some code to be executed when the condition is true. You can have any number of lines of code, okay, multiple lines of code there, and you can have elif, some other condition, meaning if this condition is not satisfied, you want to check for some other condition, maybe another condition. Okay, like let's say if 2 is if a is greater than 5 and lesser than 10, what needs to be done? If a is greater than 20 and lesser than 30, what needs to be done? Like that, if you want to check for different conditions, you can use the if elif statements, some other code to be executed. Finally, you can have a else statement. If none of the above conditions are met, right? If none of the above conditions are met, this block will get executed. So whatever lines you are going to put in here, they will get executed. So the syntax is like if a condition, elif a condition, else. Now elif and else, this block is completely optional. You can just give only an if. But to use elif or else, you must give an if statement, right? If not, it doesn't make sense to have an elif or else. You can just give if and else alone, or you can just give if elif alone, or you can just give if alone, right? So now I want to check if word length is greater than max length. So it will check if this value of word length is greater than the value of max length. Initially the max length will be 0. So the first word in our sentence, it will take the length of that sentence, and that will be in there in the word length, right? So if the word length is greater than the max length, now I'm going to store the max length as word length, right? Because no longer the max length is the maximum value, right? Now the word length is greater than max length, so max length becomes word length. Okay, and my longest word is the current word at this point. All right, now I will print longest word in the sentence is plus longest word plus width length plus string of max length. Okay, so if you look at this, I'm doing something called string of. Why do I do that? Because when you concatenate a string with a string, you don't have to do anything, it can automatically join it. But here when you try to concatenate a string with a number, max length is a number, you need to convert that number into a string. So that's what we are doing here. In languages like Java and all, you don't have to do it, it will still concatenate, because Java has variable types declaration, right? But here in Python we don't. So it will ask us to explicitly convert that number into a string before we can concatenate it with another string. I mean, when I say concatenating, it's like basically stitching them together, joining them. So now what happens? Let's see. Let me debug this. Okay, so it says Python is simple to learn and it is very powerful. I am here to learn Python and improve my knowledge. All right, so let's put enter. Okay, so now you see you have the list of words here, because you have got the string and that got split into words, and you have got the words. So now let me go into the words. The first word is Python. The current max length is 0. The longest word is nothing. There is no longest word, right? And the current word is Python. It will check the word's length, which is 6. Length gives the number of characters, right? It is 6. So 6, whether it is greater than max length, which is 0, yes it is, right? So it will go into this block. So it stores the max length as 6 and the longest word as Python. So next word it goes is the word is, for that the word length is 2. Whether it is greater than max length, no it is not, so it should not go into this block. It comes back to the loop, it didn't go in here. So this will repeat for everything, okay, until it finds another word which is longer than Python. Yeah, it has found powerful, which is longer. So now the longest word is powerful. Let's continue this and we will see if there is any other word longer than powerful. Knowledge. Yep, knowledge is longer than powerful. All right, so now what we have is longest word in the sentence is knowledge with length 10. right? So we have got the input from the user, we have broken down the sentence into words, and from the words we looped through the word, each word, we found the length of that word, and we checked whether that length is the maximum length, right? And if that is the maximum length, we are storing that length in a variable, and we are storing the word also, and we are printing it at the end. That's all. Let's just slightly modify this loop what we have written in a different approach. So now in the current approach what we have done, we have used a for loop to loop through each word present in the words list, right? So let me copy this down here and I will comment this out. Okay, so now I'm going to write a different for loop. How I'm going to do that? I would say like for word index in range of 0, len of words. So what this is going to do is, range function will give me a range of numbers. Alright, so like we have seen before, so even if you want to check that, you can go to the Python console, list of range of 20. Yeah, so when I say list of range of 1, 20, you get the list of 20 numbers. Alright, so in this loop, now I'm going to get the word index, basically the position of that word in that words list. Words the list, right? You will have the positions starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 till the end of that list, right? So I'm going to loop through the index of that word. And how I'm going to do that? I'm going to get a range of numbers starting from 0 till until the last index. Okay, so that will give me the word index. So now the word variable is no longer available, right? Earlier we had word here, but no longer it's available, so it's underlined in red. So now where is the word? How to get that word, right, from that list? Any idea? Alright, so if you remember, to get a particular item from the list, we can use the index of that item. So now from the words list, using the word index, we can get the word. Okay, so the same loop is now modified to use the index. So if I say I am learning a new language, okay, so it gives you that. And if you see learning and language, both of them have the same length, but it has already got the first word learning with length 8, so that it considers as the longest word. Okay, so the same logic but in a different loop. So the same problem can be solved with two different for loops, right? So now let's look at another looping mechanism. So as I mentioned, looping is like to repeat certain lines of code multiple times until a certain condition is met, right? Or some n number of times, or for each item, right? So now let me comment this out. I will take the word index equal to 0. Okay, now I'm going to write another loop called while loop. While a certain condition is being met, this rest of the code will get executed. So while word index is lesser than the length of words, okay, I want to repeat these lines, the same lines. But here the difference is, for loop will automatically get the range of numbers, so word index will automatically get incremented, right? So every time when it goes inside the loop, you will get the word index incremented from 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Because it's a range of numbers. But here, word index starts from 0, but it stays as 0. There is no incrementation happening here. So what will happen, right? When you run this code, it will run, the code will get executed infinitely. It will not come out of this loop. Okay, so you need to increment the word index. How do I do that? All I have to do is word index equal to word index plus 1, or I can say word index plus equal to 1. So here as well, the same block of code gets executed multiple times. So let's debug this, and it asks for a sentence. I am learning looping logic. And if you see the words, you got the words I am learning looping logic, and the word index is 0. So now word index, right, is whether it is lesser than the length of words. Yes, it is. So it will continue with the next word. It got the word I, and the word index is now incremented to 1. It will continue 2, 3, right? So it repeats the same piece of code until it finds all the words from that list. Okay, so you are able to get the longest word using 3 different looping mechanisms. First one we saw is using a for loop to iterate through each item present in a list. Second one we saw is loop through the same for loop but using the index of the items present in the list, and we got the range of numbers, right? And we got the index. The last one we have seen is a while loop. While a certain condition is met, you want to execute the piece of code inside that. So there are different applications where you may want to choose which loop you want to use in your code, right? And I hope this will help you understand how to write different loops and when you have to use if conditions, else conditions, right? Great. Thanks for watching this video. To continue learning with us, like, share, and subscribe to our channel.